So there's a story in the first couple chapters of Job about, surprisingly enough, a guy named Job. This guy is unique among men for his righteousness, his blamelessness. He's a guy who shuns evil. The first chapter mentions this a couple of times. He's so unique that God and his angels in heaven have taken notice of him. In fact, they're in heaven, God and his angels. We don't know exactly what they're doing, but Satan shows up. And God says, hey, where did you come from? And Satan says, I came from roaming the earth back and forth. And the idea is that Satan's looking at people, he's judging people, he's looking for a way to bring them down, to capitalize on their weaknesses. So God takes a moment to brag on Job, and he says, have you considered my servant Job? He's righteous, he's blameless, he shuns evil. And Satan looks at God and says, does Job worship God for nothing? I mean, don't you make his life easy? Don't you take care of him? Don't you give him everything that he wants? I mean, at the end of the day, God, haven't you bought Job's loyalty? It's not real. And so God takes Satan up on the challenge. He has so much confidence in Job's fidelity and his faithfulness and his integrity that he allows Satan to have at Job. He says, hey, you can do whatever you want to his stuff, the stuff that I gave him, but don't touch Job himself. So it's an amazing story. Job is sitting down to dinner or having a meal with his wife, and one of the servants comes rushing in and says that the Sabians came and they took the camels and the oxen and they killed all the servants, and I'm the only one that survived. And before he even finishes speaking, another servant comes in and says, fire from God came down, it killed all the sheep, it killed all the servants, I'm the only one that survived. And before he finishes speaking, another servant comes in and says, Chaldeans, they took the camels, they killed all the servants, and I'm the only one that survived. And before he finishes speaking, a fourth servant comes in and says, Job, all 10 of your children, their families, their wives, they were all gathered together feasting in a home, and a wind came and toppled the house. It killed all your kids, killed all the servants, and I'm the only one that survived. So Job's entire assets has turned into 4 servants, from 11,000 animals and tons of servants to 4, and from 10 kids to none. And Job's response is amazing. It's mind-blowing. He stands up from the table and he rips his robe and he puts dust and ashes on his head. At that time, this was a way to symbolize mourning, and he gets down, and it says that he fell down and he worshiped the Lord, saying, naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked I will depart. The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. May the name of the Lord be praised. He's just lost everything, and the first thing he does is worships God. And if that's not bad enough, I mean, as if being righteous and being blameless, this happens to him and it sucks. If that's not bad enough, you go into chapter 2. We don't know how long it's been. God is talking with his angels. Satan comes walking in again. God says, where'd you come from? From roaming around the earth, looking for people's lives to ruin, essentially. And God says, look at Job. He's maintained his integrity. You incited me to allow you to do evil against him, and he has maintained his faithfulness. And Satan, not backing down, says, skin for skin. Will not a man give up anything for his own well-being? You know, God, you're only let me take away his stuff. Let me mess with Job, and we'll see what he's really about. And so God says, you can go and you can mess with Job, but do not kill him. Do whatever you will, but do not kill him. Satan comes down, he puts sores all over Job's body. And the way the story describes it, Job has a clay shard that he's using to scratch wherever it itches so that he can try to be comfortable, and he's using to scrape himself. And his wife comes along and she says, Job, just curse God and die. It's amazing. Satan had the opportunity to take away everything from Job, right? Killed his kids. But he left the wife, and it's this wife that comes along and encourages Job. Just curse God and die. You can't really blame her. I mean, I think she gets a bad rap. People will tend to give her a hard time. But she's lost her 10 kids, and she's watching the man that she loves suffer, right? So frankly, I don't blame her. Like, in her position, I don't know what advice I would give Job, but Job's response is he tells her, you sound like a foolish woman. Notice, husbands, he doesn't call his wife a foolish woman, right? He says that she sounds like she's talking like a foolish woman, like she's better than that. She knows better than that, and she does better than that. You're talking like a foolish woman. Shall we accept good things from God and not trouble? Shall we accept good things from God and not trouble, believers? How do you respond when things don't go your way? What do you do when suffering enters your life? The amazing thing is, as believers, as Christians, we've been promised. We have been promised that suffering is coming. Like, we should expect it. The start of Christianity is denying yourself, picking up your cross as an instrument of execution and following Christ. Suffering has been promised to us, and it's been said in 1 Peter, James, that it strengthens our faith. It's in 1 Peter 1:7, James 1:2, that and several other passages, that suffering strengthens our faith. It's something that God uses to refine us, and faith brings obedience. Faith, if we have it, we can hope to one day be closer to like Job. I remember the first time I read that book, I wasn't that impressed. 16, didn't have kids, had never built assets, hadn't ever built up assets, And I just remember thinking, it's about 40 chapters long. I remember Job does a lot of whining. He really does. But you know what he does before he lashes out at God, before he expresses any frustration to God? He falls down and he worships him in chapter 1. And he defends him and worships him again in chapter 2. Shall we accept good things from God and not trouble? God, if he has allowed trouble into your life, he's done it for good reason. He's done it so that you would grow and be stronger. He's done it for your sake. Remember who it is that is allowing trouble into your life. It is a good God. It is a God who cannot break his promises. It is a God who is faithful even when we are faithless. It is a God who has integrity and fidelity like you can't even imagine, who loves you and wants what's best for you. That is who has allowed you to go through whatever it is that you're going through. And so, believer, I would encourage you, trust him. Trust him that he knows what he's doing. And before you do anything else, it's okay to express frustration. But before you get up from that table and go whining and complaining and do all this, fall down on your knees and worship the Lord God who created you.